So let's get these questions a rolling. All right. So I
Awesome.
had some of my friends. I had some of my friends ask them what kind of questions they want to ask you. So the first few questions are Bulma related.
I love it.
And all right. So the first question is, what is it like for, being Bulma for so long?
You know,
Oh wait,
it's
shoot, hang on.
funny.
Wait,
Go.
I forgot. I have to do my intro.
Oh, go for it. Go for it.
It's been forever since I've done an interview. I forgot I have to do my intro for.
No, you're good.
Greetings, YouTubers. It's your luscious Lady Rouge One Full here, and I have a special guest. Please welcome the one, the only, Monica Rial.
It's so good to see you.
It's so good to see you too. All right, let's get the questions officially started now because I screwed up.
No, you're good.
What was it like being Bulma for so long?
You know, I love Bulma, first of all, but what's funny is I've been voicing Bulma for what, 11, 12 years now, something like that. And what's funny is I don't know if she's becoming more like me or I'm becoming more like her, but there are definitely a lot more similarities between us than I first noticed when I started on Kai. Like, I don't know what it is, but she's so much stronger, especially in Super. Like, those guys are afraid of her. Like, that's one of my favorite things is she opens her mouth and these Saiyans are like, I'm scared, it's Bulma. Or like the one episode where Krillin has a nightmare and it's all the evil people and Bulma because he's just terrified of her. But I adore her. And there's just something about Bulma that has such a huge place in my heart because, you know, having the history of watching it in Spain with my little brother and then becoming friends with the entire cast and then becoming a part of the cast, like, it's just been such a huge deal. And I love her so much, so much. And I'm just so thrilled that I'm still getting to voice her and that she's still a part of my life. I love her. I love her. What else you got for me?
What's your favorite part about being Bulma?
Ooh, my favorite part about being Bulma is probably yelling at Chris and Sean. No, I'm kidding. No, my favorite part about being Bulma is being able to voice such a strong female character. There's a lot of them in anime. You know, anime has a lot of really great, strong female characters, but Bulma has been around since the beginning. And watching her grow from this little girl that just wanted a boyfriend to this woman who owns her own company. She's the wealthiest person in the city. She is strong. She's not afraid to go out there. I loved that in the most recent film, they're like, okay, well, we're going to go. She's like, you're not leaving without me. Like, I'm going with you. And I'm going to make sure you have coats. Like, she's just become this kind of maternal like woman, but at the same time, she stands up for what she believes in. She wasn't afraid to call Frieza out to tell him he was ugly. Like, she's just so super strong. And I love the idea that there are little girls watching that are like, you can be a strong lady and still be loved. You can be smart. You can be funny. You can be, you know, an entrepreneur. You can do all of those things and still be a lady and still be cute and still have fun. Like, you can have it all. And that is huge to me. I love her. I know I keep saying that, but I love her.
All right. So what is the biggest difference between you and Bulma?
Oh, the biggest difference between me and Bulma is that she yells. I don't like to yell a whole lot, and I'm usually a pretty peaceful person. Like, if I get angry, I usually am one of those quiet, angry people. I take in my surroundings and just kind of watch what's going on. She's much more bombastic and likes to yell at people. So that is definitely a difference. But other than that, yeah, she's a mom. I'm not a mom. I'm a stepmom, but I'm not a mom. So that's different. She's very wealthy and I'm not. So that's the difference. But yeah, but I find that we've kind of grown up together and we've kind of I've gotten more strength from her, I think, than she's gotten from me, obviously.
Oh.
It's super fun. I enjoy her a lot.
What's your favorite underrated role?
There's so many. I I would say she's underrated, but she's not on TikTok. On TikTok, everybody loves her. But Yonah from Black Clover, she's one of my new favorites. She's kind of like the Vegeta, female Vegeta of Black Clover. You know, she just yells all the time, and she's fiery and angry, and always in competition with her brothers, which I love. And in that same show, Sekirei, who is a newer character, she's a lot of fun that not a lot of people talk about. Other than that, I'd have to go back to old school stuff. So there's a show called Razafon, which is Rahxephon. People are like, what?
I've never heard of that one.
It's such a good show, and it got written off because it was kind of like people thought it was an Evangelion ripoff because it's based on the same folk tale, but it's a totally different story, and it's so good. That one's awesome. There's an older show called Princess Nine. I don't think it's in print anymore, so it's really hard to find. But Princess Nine is a show about a girls' baseball team, which I'm not into baseball at all. But the characters is a very character-driven show, and that's a great. There's so many good ones. Corral, Phantom Memory. Like, seriously, I've been in so many anime now that I'm like, if anybody wanted a list of like shows that nobody's seen that are awesome, I got you. I got you.
Was playing Yonah fun? And what line do you think defines her really well?
Yes, playing Yonah was super fun. That was one of those shows that when I started working on it, I first was the lead writer for the scripts, which meant as the scripts came in, I had to like go through them and make sure that it sounded like one voice and that it matched the flaps and all that stuff. So I'd already fallen in love with the characters and the show. And what was difficult about Yonah is when we started recording it, it was right when simuldub started. And the Japanese company had said, we want Yonah to be one of your simuldubs. The problem is we had to start with the second season. So when we recorded Yonah, we actually recorded the second season first and then had to go back and record the first season up to that. So for me as an actor, it was challenging, but I loved the challenge because it's like, okay, I have to start in this place, go to this character, like she grows as a character to this point. Then I have to go all the way back and figure out what this Yonah is and somehow end up back in the place where I started, which was kind of like Inception, mind-blowing, like how am I going to do this? But it was such a fun challenge. And then it's such a beautiful story and it's such a sweet story. We had so much fun recording. It was one of Clifford Chapin's first directing gigs. So it was fun kind of watching Clifford come into his own as a director as well as voice acting in the show. So I just hope that there's a second season because there's so much that's left unanswered. And I think it's cool how it comes full circle, but I want to know more. I want to know more. Here's hoping we'll get a second season someday.
Okay. What was one of your hardest lines? Like anywhere?
Oh, anywhere? Oh gosh. Hardest lines. Well, I will say the language that we had to speak in Devil is a Part-Timer, as Esmeralda, like that, Jamie Markey created that language, and kudos to her because it's a very specific language with a very specific speech pattern. And I thought, okay, well, it's just gibberish. How hard can it be? It was so hard because you have to put ideas to sounds that don't make any sense in your brain. And I remember texting Sabat because he played, my partner in that show. And I texted him, I'm like, get ready, man, because this is about to be hard.
Yeah, I remember that one. That one also deserves a second season, and I'm mad at
it's so
in it.
I know, that was so good.
Yeah, watching you guys like just do a completely made up language, I was like, this feels like it took a while to do.
I did, and Jamie it's so great how she created it out of nothing, but then to be like, no, you have to stress this syllable of this made up language. It was like, wait, my head hurts, and I'm trying to think, since I speak Spanish as well, I'm like, is it similar to Spanish? I'm trying to logically make sense of it, and
Is this how these nerds who love Lord of the Rings just do Elvish entirely?
I'm like, maybe we need to start speaking this language and turn it into like an Elvish Klingon thing. Like, hey, this is the language from Devils of Heartsheimer. But that was really hard. The only other line that I can think of, and this is kind of a little more R-rated, is very early on. One of the first comedies I worked on was Excel Saga, which is zany, crazy. And I play an alien. Basically,
I'm trying to remember if I watched Excel Saga. It definitely sounds familiar.
Oh, you would know. So my character is an alien, and she comes to the Earth, and she dies every episode of, I presume, consumption, just rivers of blood. But because she's an alien, there's certain things that she sees that she's startled by. And so she meant this very innocently, but the line itself is, so she sees a carousel going around and she's like, oh, I've never ridden anything that goes up and down and in and out before. And exactly. And I was a brand new voice actor going, I have to say that? And they're like, yeah, but it's innocent. And I'm like,
you're paying me to say this?
Okay. And so after I said it, I remember the director going, and that is going to be every fanboy's ringtone for the next 5 years. And that's when it hit me like, oh gosh, the things I say in this booth go out into the world. Like, ah. But yeah, that was difficult because I'm like, is my mom here? Like, am I going to get in trouble for saying this? Now I've done so many ecchi shows.
Yeah, no, like that makes me honestly, that makes me very happy to not be Hispanic, because this is, you see, like, you have a chancla heading around the corner and it will hit you every time.
Oh, if my dad knew that was a line in an anime, even at my age now, at 45, there'd be a chancla coming from my head. I'm not even kidding. He thinks it's all just Dragon Ball. He doesn't know any better.
Okay.
That's a good question.
Do you have an embarrassing booth story you can tell us?
Oh gosh, so many. I have to do some really ridiculous stuff sometimes to like get the voices out in the booth. I think one of my most embarrassing was actually when I was at ADV. We did a lot of Studio Gonzo shows. And so Studio Gonzo actually sent out a team of like Japanese businessmen and people that worked very high up in the company to see how we were handling the dubs. And it was this big deal. Like, okay, the Japanese are coming and everybody has to be on point. Like, do your best. So, they go and they see Lucy Christian doing some dramatic monologue and they're like, oh, yes, Lucy Christian. And they go and see Chris Patton and he's doing some dramatic monologue. And, oh, yes, Christopher Patton. Then they come see me. And we're working on a show called Peacemaker Kuragane, where I play an angry pig. And so here they are. They've gone to one booth to see all of this. And oh, isn't this wonderful? And then they're like, okay, this is Monica. She's been with us for a long time. She's done these many shows. She's been in these Gonzo shows. All right, Monica, let's take a look at the first cue. And we watch it. And then they're like, okay, let's go. And so I'm like, and they're like, so I stop and they're like, oh, Monica-san, genki. Thank you. So that was a little weird because I'm like, did I really just have to do an angry pig impression for these Japanese business? They're gonna go home and be like, Lucy Christian was amazing, Chris Patton was amazing, Monica made noises. But there's been so many stories. Like, I mean, you just can't be afraid to spit or snot or make funny faces. And sometimes we have tours that come through and you want to like be like, I'm cool, watch me be a voice actor. But there's no being cool. Like, you just can't. There was one time we had a tour come in of high schoolers, and I guess they climbed around. It was a booth that the windows were covered except for this one. It was little, but in the front there was like just this much of a gap, and then the screen for the script and everything was up here. So I was getting ready to do my line, and then suddenly two faces popped up right here, and I screamed. They're like, oh my God, we're so sorry. We didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm like, no, it's fine. I just usually see faces like underneath. So yeah, we have some interesting moments, that's for sure. Good question.
What is your routine for warming up your voice before recording?
My routine. So I come from musical theater, way back in the day. And so I do a lot of singing warm-ups because I find that helps. I use this app. Let's see, this is on, I have an iPhone, but I'm sure they have one for Android as well. And my screen is really cracked, but I'm going to show you. It's this guy right here. It's called Vocal Warm-Up.
Okay.
And Vocal Warm-Up, the reason I like that app is, number one, it's free. Number two, it allows you to choose like your starting and ending point pitch-wise. So a lot of them don't let you choose, they just give you a range and they're like, here, that'll warm you up. I like that I can push it as low as I want to go and as high as I want to go. And then it also allows you to choose the exercises you do. Because if you're a voice actor, like I have to warm up my lips. People don't think about that. But if you don't warm up your lips, then you're going to end up biting your lips repeatedly. So I do a lot of lip trills, the
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do that for my warm up too. I'm literally just going like trying.
Yeah.
I'm not doing a good job of it right now. But
No, totally. But like and you're just spitting everywhere. That's just how it works. That I'll do scales. And then back in the day when we used to actually go to the studio, I would put on music that I felt fit the character and I would sing in character voices. And that kind of helped me get into the brain space of the character and the sound of it as well. But now I walk around the house doing my vocal warm up and stuff. It's a little different with pandemic.
Yeah, I'll get to that. I read that. Is there an old anime that you ever got to dub or never got oh my God, I can't read. Is there an old anime that either never got a dub or never got a Funimation dubbing that you want it to be in?
Oh gosh, there's quite a bit out there that we haven't gotten to dub, and that makes me sad. Like I know there's another Kitty Grade that we never got to do. There's more Triple X Holic. I was the director on that one, and there's more of that we never got to do. So there are definitely shows floating out there that I would love to do more of, but unfortunately, it's still a business. And so if a show doesn't seem like it's picking up enough for them to spend more money on another season, then they won't, because they don't want to lose money on it. But then you have shows like D Gray Man, where it kind of just dropped off, and I was like, well, I guess we're never gonna dub that again. And then the new season came out and they decided to dub everything in between. So there's still hope for those shows. But yeah, there are quite a few. And then there's a ton of shows that I'm like, can we get another season of that? Like, can we make that happen? Because I'd like to see more of it. But who knows? Who knows what's gonna happen in the future? It seems like there's been kind of this resurgence of like, Full Metal Panic just had another season recently. They brought Orphan back. So it seems like some of the older shows are getting some love again. So I'm hoping that will continue. I'm hoping.
All right. So some of my more random questions popped up because I was like
awesome.
Blanking for trying to write. Which quirk from My Hero Academia do you want the most and why? And which quirk would you want the least?
I think the quirk that I would want the most would be Todoroki's, because I could heat things up or heat myself up or chill things off or chill myself off. Like I'm one of those people that I'm never comfortable temperature wise. I'm either too hot or too cold. So if I had the opportunity to just be like, oh, let me chill the room a little bit, let me heat it up. Also, I tend to leave coffee and tea sitting out and I forget, and then it's cold. So if I was able to just like and heat it up in my hand, that would be rad. So that would be a very practical quirk that I would like to have. As far as one I wouldn't like to have, I'm gonna go, I don't know. I was gonna say Mineta, but I could see a reason for sticky purple balls. I mean, like if you were getting robbed, that would be a good way to get out of it. Just throw them at him. I probably would be against, as much as I love Ochako, I don't really need the Uravity quirk because I don't like heights for one. So that would be bad.
And she has to hold her breath while she does that.
That too. And the puking afterwards. Like, I'm not cool with that.
I'm not sure which quirk I would want the most. There's just like so many that are pretty cool.
They're so cool.
But the one I would absolutely know I definitely don't want is stains. Because that's blood you have to taste. Like, think about it. How do you have to be already a sick person in the head to discover that quirk that you consciously said, let me put this other person's blood in my mouth.
Let's just see what it does. Like, no, thank you.
And it's like you know what different types of blood types affect, like have a longer or a least lasting bit. So you had to test this stuff out. And on top of that, it's like if you lick someone with like AIDS, you're going down. Like that's the worst quirk to have.
I mean, I'm sure he's got like his iron levels are probably awesome, but that's the only plus side I could see to drinking blood. Yeah, I wouldn't want to do that
either. What's been your hardest role, either because of vocal range or because the character required a lot of emotion?
Ooh, okay. Vocal range, let's see. The ones that are the hardest are usually the ones that you have to be the most careful about. So the ones that are way outside my normal range. So like Leona, I have to be very careful because she's way down here and she yells everything. So I have to make sure that I'm ready to do that for hours on end. The other ones that kind of I have to be careful with are whenever I use the real raspy. So like, Mey-Rin, I have to be real careful when I'm doing this because it's a lot of stress on the throat. On that same vein, you've got Bienfu from Tales of Berseria who talks like this. So those voices are a lot of fun to do, but you have to be so careful because they are very taxing. But as far as emotion goes, there was one show that we did called Death Parade. And it's a great show because if you're into Funimation voice actors, you can hear like each episode has a different set of voice actors kind of going up against each other, which is really cool. So for my episode, it was me and Ian Sinclair, whom I love and is one of my good friends. And so we had such a great time working on that, but it was so hard because my character comes unraveled at the end. Like, I mean, screamy, snotty mess. And as an actor, you have to go there, right? Like you have to go that far. Otherwise, if I try to like downplay it, you guys are going to be able to tell that I didn't give it 100%. Right. So I went all in and I was screaming and crying. And, now looking back at it, it's so cathartic. Like I felt so much better after getting it all out. But it definitely hit a part of my soul that it's like, oh, I put a little bit of my soul into that I will never get back because it hit me hard. And apparently I was so loud in my crying and wailing in this booth that the people that were in the rooms next door came over to make sure I was okay. They're like, what happened to Monica? And I'm like, I'm fine. I just did a scene. So that one's huge to me, but that was very difficult because, you try to kind of separate yourself from the character a little bit, but sometimes there's that overlap, like something will be said or a line that triggers you. And it's like, suddenly it's not just them, it's you as well. And that was definitely that episode. So that was hard, but awesome. So rewarding.
All right. What was your first voiceover role?
Oh, my very first voiceover role was in a show called Martian Successor Nadeshko. And there was this big group of people that worked on the ship. And I was this little girl named Mikako that worked in the kitchen. She was super cute. She had little space buns. And she was in love with one of the other female characters. And I thought that was so cool because this is back in the late 90s. When people were giving Ellen a hard time for coming out on television, and here I am in this anime, and I'm playing this little lesbian, and I was so excited. I'm like, this is so cool. Why don't we have this in the States? But I loved her, and that was my very first like minor speaking role, and it was awesome. And I had a few other little bit roles in Nadeshiko. And then I went on to work on Gasaraki, which Miharu was my first lead role. And that was challenging to go from like little kitchen girl to like the main character. It was very, very daunting, you know. It was very scary, but that was my very first show.
Are there any new anime roles you can tell us about?
Ooh, what can I tell you about? There are a lot of new anime shows. I just don't know which ones I can talk about. That's the only thing with the because with the pandemic, it kind of like threw everything off. So we were so good about simuldubs and like this is when it's coming off. But now we've got some backlog where we don't necessarily have to do the simuldub thing. So I don't know which ones are coming out and which ones aren't. But I will just say, you will hear me in the animu. I'm just not sure I can tell you which one yet.
What's been your favorite 2020 role?
Uzuki. Uzuki-chan and Uzuki-chan wants to hang out. I had so much fun working on that show because well, first of all, it's just a fun show, but I saw all the drama on the internet about people being like, oh, it's a pedo anime and oh, she's horrible. And then when I looked into it, I'm like, so they think it's a pedo anime because she's a 20-year-old that has big boobs and she's short. I know people like that. Like, I know lots of people like that. Like, that is a body type. So I started looking into the show and I realized, oh, it's not nearly as ecchi as everybody's trying to make it out to be. There's a lot of fun innuendo, but it's not the creep-tastic show that people trying to sell it to be.
Right.
It's actually really cute and kind of tongue-in-cheek, and working with Rico on it has been so much fun. So yeah, Uzuki, she's my favorite little gremlin. And mint chocolate chip for life.
All right. How do you do Asui's voice? I've tried figuring out where to put that in my throat, and I can't figure it out.
So the trick is, it's actually more nasal than throat.
Okay.
So what I'm doing is like making my voice is already pretty nasal, right? But then if I like move it to the front, you hear like it sounds really, really nasal, like my nose is congested and everything. And then what I do is I open my throat so that you got this, and then all of a sudden, like I let it sit kind of in the back of my throat, and that's how you kind of get the suyu. And then I lower it just a little bit. Originally, like when listening to Aoi Yuki, the Japanese seiyuu, her suyu is a little higher. So she's kind of more like in this area, but we decided to kind of lower her a little bit because, you know, Western ears are not as friendly to the high-pitched voices all the time. And especially when you've got a classroom full of like all these high-pitched girls, we thought it'd be much more interesting to have her be like a little lower so she kind of sits between the boys and the girls. The only problem with that is that anytime there's like a group cue, usually sometimes like, you know, they'll be like, okay, we've got enough people, we don't need any more. But Suyu always has to be in the group cues because she stands out so much. But yeah, it's like in the front of the throat, in the front of the nose, but then kind of in the throat. And you just kind of pinch your vocal cords. It's weird.
I'll practice that later. All right. Do you have a favorite song you've sung in anime?
Oh, there's so many good ones. I liked the opening and closing to Hello Kitty's Animation Theater. Like that was a lot of fun. I love all the songs in Show by Rock, but it's really, really hard because when I sing naturally, I'm kind of a mezzo soprano, and these, you know, Moa is like way up here, so I had to sing way up there, which is hard. So kind of the same thing with Hello Kitty. It's weird. I play all of these really high-pitched characters, and then when I have to sing up there, it's hard. But I'd say my favorite overall is probably Mira Jane's song when she gets up on stage in Fairy Tale and sings. I loved that song. And a little bit of trivia, I had gallbladder disease at the time and had scheduled a surgery but hadn't gone yet. And so the whole time I'm singing that song, I had a water bottle that I was pushing into my diaphragm because it hurt so bad. and Brina Palencia was the sound. She was a music person at that time, and so she was kind of leading me through. And she's like, "Are you gonna be okay?" I'm like, "I'm fine. I'm just dying, but let's keep singing. It's gonna be okay." But yeah, so that one, I'm proud of how it turned out because I really thought I was dying.
All right. What's one of your favorite things about being a voice actor?
One of my favorite things is, well, being able to work from anywhere. We've proven now that like I do most of my work at home. I can do it in my pajamas, and I've recorded many an anime during this pandemic in my pajamas with no makeup on, in my glasses, and my fuzzy slippers in my studio. And that is awesome because nobody will ever know any better.
What's one of the hardest things about being a voice actor?
Ooh, one of the hardest things about being a voice actor is the hustle. Like, work doesn't just come to you, you have to go find it. So especially in like, a global pandemic, it's not enough to just audition for commercial work. So I do commercial work, I do anime, I do video games, I do audiobooks, like whatever people throw at me. I'm like, sure, I'll audition. I will audition for any of it. That's what's hard because you are alone in charge of your workload and how you take care of it and all that stuff. So that can be very, very tricky. Making your own schedule.
Just finding the auditions itself. That's the hardest thing for me.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too, is that like right now, like I have a talent agent who sends me auditions, but right now things are just slow because, especially commercially, companies don't want to spend a lot of money on advertisement when they're not really making a lot of money in their, brick and mortar stores. So it's been a lot slower. So I'm so thankful for the anime and video games during this time because it's like, other than a few clients, commercial clients that I've had that have continued, there's some that are like, we love you, we mean it, we'll see you on the other side of this thing, but right now we're going to save some money. And I'm like, I totally get it. I think we're all there right now. Right. But yeah, it's been interesting.
Is there an anime that you worked on that only got one season you think deserves another one? I think we kind of answered this one.
Oh God, so many.
Let's do one.
But Panty and Stocking, definitely.
Yes.
Panty and Stocking, Dead Man Wonderland. I want more of that. Gosh, there's so many. Like I could just go on and on forever.
On just the biggest trolling ending possible.
And I want to play that Stocking. I want to do that. Let me do it, Gynax. Where are you? Make it happen.
What's one of your favorite gifts you've gotten at a con?
Oh gosh, you guys always bring me the coolest stuff. I got a really cool lamp that has Suyu on it. That's got like moss growing out of the top. That was cool. I've got two little rubber duckies that are painted as my characters that Ron stole and has in his office. I was like, Ronald, but it's okay. I can still see them. I've got, oh gosh, one of my favorite things that anybody's ever made me, and I haven't put it up yet, and I'm not just saying it because she's here, but I fell in love with the meme. I don't know if you guys, I'm sure you have, the possum that yells at his own butt. What? Like there's a meme about, what is it? She got class, she scream at own ass, and it's like a possum like screaming at its butt. And I love that meme. I don't know why, but I would send it to people randomly, and I'd send it to Amy, and she did a needlepoint with the meme on it, and I was like, so that's one of my favorite things anybody's ever given me. I'm like, I have a thing with a needlepoint possum screaming at its own ass. That makes me But I get a lot of great fan art too, and so that's one thing. Like we just moved not too long ago, and I'm working on my office. And I have a plan that one whole wall is just going to be like a collage of fan art. And so I'm super excited about that.
Cool. Okay. I don't know how much time is left in the Zoom because I'm cheap and I have not paid for like extended Zoom meetings. So so lightning round.
Okay.
What's the farthest you traveled for a con?
Australia. Several times.
What was it like when you got invited to your first con?
Oh gosh, intimidating because it was a con and it was huge and I had no idea what to expect. And I was very lucky that Jan Scott Fraser was there to walk me around and teach me the ways and gave me my first ramune and my first pocky. But yeah, intimidating to say the least.
Okay, how has COVID changed how anime is done now? Has it made it easier or harder?
It's a little harder in the sense that everything is digitally, so we don't get to see the directors, and directors, a lot of them are hands-on. Like they'll be like, okay, look at my face, make this face or do this. And so it's kind of weird not having that ability. But at the same time, I really like that I can work from my home studio and I don't have to go anywhere. And that whole pajama thing is really cool.
All right. What was the reaction at Funimation and your reaction when COVID first started? And what was the reaction and game plan when it became clear COVID was not going to go away by the summer?
Good question. I know at first, like we were, wearing masks and having hand sanitizer. And then there came the day where they were like, okay, I think we need to shut the doors. And it was terrifying because that was very early on and everything was shut. We had that national lockdown that was hardcore. And so I think like most of us voice actors didn't work for like 2 months while people were trying to figure out, like, is this a thing that's going to stick around? Is anything going on? So it was really, really difficult in that 2-month period. Then stuff started to trickle in. That's when Funimation started sending out actor kits for people who didn't have studios, and then talking to us that did have studios, trying to figure out the best way to make it all happen. And I have to commend the team at Funimation, Nathaniel Harrison and all of them, because they did an amazing job of getting everything together. And now they've really streamlined it. We are kicking butt and taking names and working like crazy. But it kind of happened in 2 waves. There was the, okay, well, this isn't going anywhere right now. So here are these actor kits. Let's make this work. And then it was the, oh, we're in this for the long haul. Let's get an even more permanent situation. So I don't know what it's going to look like once we can go out into the world again. Like, I don't know how much of it we will still do from home, but I have to commend them for making it happen, because they did. They made it work.
All right. What was one of the biggest adjustments you had to make dealing with a post-COVID world?
Biggest, I would say the studio stuff, like having to really invest. Like, it's one of those things where you're like, okay, I use my studio for auditions and stuff and occasional recording. It's fine. And then when this happened, it was like, oh, all those times. And I'm like, I need to upgrade my stuff. Yeah, that needs to happen now. So that was hard, because it's like, you don't have any money coming in, and yet you need to spend the money in order to make more money. So it was kind of a weird trying to get used to the idea of, okay, I'm gonna spend some money, but it's gonna help me out in the long run. That's been hard.
I had that problem too when I had I had to get a new laptop because my old laptop crapped out on me, and then I realized, like, oh shit, new laptops don't have inputs for speakers, so I have to get a new microphone. So I had to spend $80 on a microphone. Like, I hate this. I'm broke.
I hear you. Yeah, it's rough, and it's just one of the things you have to do.
What do you miss doing the most in a post-COVID world?
Just going places. Like, I'm pretty strict about where I go. I go to the grocery store on occasion, because I have to. But that's pretty much, like, I go to a gym, but it's a personal training gym. So you're like one-on-one and everybody's masked and all that stuff. But those are the only 2 places I go. Like, other than that, I'm at home, and I might like drive to Houston to see my family, and then that's it. So just being able to go out and like hanging out with my mom. Like, I went to go visit her in Houston and make sure she had everything she needed. And normally we would like go out to lunch and do all this, and realizing, okay, well, she's 72. Like, I don't feel comfortable just taking her into a restaurant. So it's like, okay, Mom, I'm sorry. I love you. I wish we could go to lunch, but instead I'm going to go pick up some food and bring it home and we're going to eat at home. Or like last time we were running errands, so we had Whataburger in the car and had a little picnic in the car, because I'm like, we're not going in the restaurant. Like, this is it. I'm putting my foot down.
Yeah.
So
after COVID,
it'll be nice when we can do that.
Yeah, because after COVID wasn't going to go away for a while, I realized, like, shit, I can't see my family this year. I can't go fishing with my uncle, and I really wanted to.
Yeah, that's rough. That is rough.
And okay, when COVID is finally dealt with, and we don't know how long, do you think Funimation is going to keep doing dubbing sessions at home, or do you think most people go back to the studio?
I think that most people will probably go back to the studio. I think that they'll probably continue to use our home studios for like pickups, you know, things like that. Maybe if you only have 15 minutes, they might be like, hey, just jump on there so you don't have to drive out here. But I think most people will want to be back in the studios.
And my final question,
Yeah.
and because people are doing dubbing at home, do you think it has made it easier for newcomers to get into anime voice acting?
100%. In fact, I know that Funimation has been really cognizant this pandemic, especially, of bringing in new people. They want to make sure that they have more people of color that are voice acting, so that the people that are voice acting sound and look like the community that is listening to the voice acting. They've also been big on bringing in more new people. So I know that they've made a huge push to bring in a new group of people, and they will continue to do so. But I think that this is going to make it so much easier for people who don't live in Dallas, because even though they'll have people come back to the studio, they're still going to be using people that live outside of Dallas, and they're going to continue to use, you know, all of the technology and stuff for them. So I think that people who live outside of Texas who want to be voice actors, or live outside of LA who want to be voice actors, that this changes the game. Like, now there is much more of an opportunity than there was before. You know, you don't necessarily have to move to Texas to do it anymore. And that's fantastic, because we have this technology. We should be using it. So let's bring in people from all over the place. Why not? Yeah.
Please, God.
I would love to have you guys. Like, there's enough work for everybody
I
times over.
I want to be in there. I would love to be able to just, I would love
We're
to be
going to
able
make it happen.
voice acting. Yeah, I'll look into the thing that you told me about, but
Yes.
thank you so much for doing this. I've been wanting to do this for so long. And like, because I haven't done an interview since, oh God, Steve Bloom in like 2016. It's been a while. It's been a minute.
I love him. Well, it was so good to see you, and I hope that once these conventions come back, once it's safe to go outside again, I hope I get to see you in Florida next time I'm out there. All right, hon, well, take care, and I'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
My heart is full of hatred and loathing for your ugly faces and stupid